What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Whiteboard Wednesday. I'm Rodrigo Afanador with Asheville Cash Buyers. Today, we're talking about something that's incredibly important when it comes to buying, selling property with tenants, or if you are a tenant in a property that is being purchased or sold. So we are talking about Estoppel letters or an Estoppel letter. This was something I'd never heard about, very new to it until I went to go do my first transaction where we were inheriting tenants, and we had to, make sure everybody was on the same page. Imagine it, but nobody was on the same page. The tenant was in disagreement with what the landlord or the seller was saying, and I was getting mixed information from both parties, and the only way to clear this thing up was to get everybody to get it on paper, sign it, and agree that certain things were true. And so that's what an Estoppel letter is. Basically, it's where the tenant and the current landlord agree on some basic principles. So I'm gonna go into when we use them in a moment, but first I want to go over what are some of the things that are covered inside of an Estoppel letter. Or essentially just, a few things. First off, it's how much is rent? What type of lease are you on? Are you on a month-to-month? Or are you on a year lease? Are there any current or outstanding repair requests? Is there any litigation? Honestly, it's best practice if you do have tenants in your house, or if you're thinking about buying a house, buying it or doing that transaction in the middle of any sort of tenant-landlord litigation is, I feel like you're setting yourself up for problems. I don't think I'd want to acquire those gray hairs. But again, that's what the Estoppel letter says. It basically says, this is how much rent is. My lease starts on January 1st and ends on December 31st. If it renews, it's going to be a month-to-month rent. Right now, I'm in good standing with my landlord and vice versa. No money is owed. It basically covers all the details and asserts whether there is a lease. I did forget that one. I'm sorry. Lease. Is it a written lease or is it a verbal lease? Do people have copies, etc.? So this is really important because if you're buying a new property, you want to make sure that you know what agreement or what arrangement you have with your tenants. If you're a tenant, you want to know, or you want to make sure that the landlord that is, or the new buyer is going to protect or respect whatever agreements you had with your previous landlord or with the previous owner of the property. So this is super important, guys. If you're a tenant, you're a seller, you're a buyer, and you're doing a rental property transaction, make sure you get an Estoppel letter. It'll save you a lot of headaches. I did it on my first one. I was trying to, be the nice guy and take everybody at the word and do handshake deals and whatnot. And it bit me in the butt. We ended up in eviction court for a whole variety of issues. That was years ago. Thankfully, learned a lot, and those tenants were patient enough with us, and we ironed things out, and they're still current tenants of us. But a lot of headaches would have been saved had we just taken the time to understand and use an Estoppel letter. All right, guys, this is a short one, but really appreciate. If you ever heard of an Estoppel letter, send us a little thumbs up or say yes. And if you haven't, say no, and we're happy to interact with you a little bit on that. And, maybe if you have specific questions, we can do our best to answer them. However, we're not an attorney, so we can't give any actual legal advice around that, of course. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in on another episode of Whiteboard Wednesday.